Hello, my yarn lovers, my fiber artists, my crafty and creative people, and of course, my just craft curious people who are here just because, nothing wrong with that. Alrighty, well, my name's May. I love yarn, I love to knit and crochet, and if you are new to my channel, I'm also visually impaired. So I knit and crochet by feel. And on my channel, you are going to find several projects where I combine knitting and crochet. Because, hey, I just love them both, right? I've got several skirts where I start and I knit the top part and then I go and crochet the bottom. I have one where I crocheted granny squares and then knit the top. I think it's really fun to put the two together. I already have videos on my channel about crow knitting, how you can crochet right off your knitting needle. And in this video, I've got this nice little rectangle of crochet, of double crochet, that I just want to use for a super nice, light, airy mesh piece for the bottom of a top. But then I know that I could make the whole top crochet and wear, something underneath, a tank top or something, and I can still probably do that. But I've decided that I want to knit the top. I want a nice solid piece on top. So that means that I have to pick up these crochet stitches and get them onto my knitting needle. So I thought, why not? Let's just do a demo of that. Now, if you crochet at all, you know that your crochet stitch has the 3 bars. You've got the 2 loops on the top, you've got your front loop and your back loop. Now I crocheted this little rectangle on a 4.25 millimeter hook, a G6 hook. And I'm going to go ahead and go with a smaller knitting needle. That works better. So this is a number 3 or a 3.25 millimeter knitting needle. And so what we want to do, because we've got a front loop and a back loop, right, on our crochet, is that we want to pick these stitches up with the knitting needle through the back loop only. So we're going to grab the stitch in the back loop only and just put it on the knitting needle. That's it. Just thread the knitting needle, go from front to back into the back loop only, front to back, and thread those stitches on to the knitting needle. That is all that there is to it. It's fairly simple. You just go along your work. You take your knitting needle from front to back and you stick it into, don't split your yarn, into the back loop only. Don't get the bottom loop if you can. There is the back bump down there and you really don't want that if you can help it. I seem to be grabbing it a lot here. I don't want to split my yarn, but at the same time, I don't want to grab the back bump. So that's all that we're doing here. I hope you can see this. I'll try to get more of an angle on the top so you can really see that well. I know it's white. I think this is white on white, so I don't know how well. I probably should have put something down for a background that's not white. That could give you more contrast. But here we go. We'll just do this into the back loop, front to back. Don't split the yarn and don't grab the back bump down below. That's the tricky part. Back loop only, front to back. Okay, well, I am going to go all the way across this garment. There are 60 stitches here, and I just know that you don't want to watch me do this for 60 stitches, right? I think if you are going to practice this on your own, you can do that without having to watch me do this over 60 stitches. And of course, you can rewind as much as possible, pause, go back, review. So back loop only, front to back, back loop only, front to back, and just thread your stitches onto your knitting needle, preferably a size smaller. Okay, I'm going to hit pause and I'm going to get all 60 stitches onto here, and then we'll come back and talk about doing the back side.
Pause. Pause.
Okay, so I have threaded 60 stitches onto a size 3 knitting needle on the front half, or one half anyways, doesn't really matter right now what's the front and the back. And we're going to flip this over and we are going to do the exact same thing on the second half. We're going to use a size 3 knitting needle again, and we're going to find our finding that very first stitch can be tricky, and you want to go into, let's see here, into the back loop of your first stitch, back loop only if I can without splitting the yarn, back loop only, front to back, 1, let's see, I just split the yarn again, 2, 3, right, go into the back loop only, front to back, same thing as before, back loop only, front to back. I don't know what you call this. I don't know if it has a name. I don't know if it's also called crow knitting. I have no idea. I know that there are definitely a few other people out there, though, like myself, who do it like this. And yeah, but what we are just doing right now is we're picking up crochet stitches and we're putting them on to a knitting needle so that we can knit a solid piece of knit fabric on the bust of our top here. We're making just a nice lightweight cotton blend summer top. Okay, back loop only, front to back, back loop only, front to back. Don't split your yarn. All right, well, I'm going to do the exact same thing as I did on the front half, where I go and grab all 60 loops, okay? And again, I don't think that you need to watch me do this process through 60 loops, right, on each side. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera again, and then when I get all 60 loops onto the knitting needle, I'll get back with you and I'll show you what we're going to do next. Okay, be right back.
Pause.
Okay, and this is the yarn that we're using. It's the Shine Knit Picks We Crochet Sport in the white. We're just going to pop the label off of that and, oh my goodness, find the end of our yarn in the skein. So we have 60 stitches on the front, 60 stitches on the back. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start our circular knitting. But you're going to notice something with these stitches, the way that they're threaded on here. They're threaded on here at an angle. You'll see that. And they're kind of loose, right? These stitches are a little bit loosey-goosey. You can especially see it up here. The stitches are loose. Let me grab the other end of this knitting needle. If I do it under the camera, which I've experimented with doing before, I'll end up bumping the camera a lot, really jostling it about. We are going to try to avoid that, although I will tell you working in this small space is rather difficult. But because all I have is a cell phone camera to work with. So what we're going to do is we are going to knit these stitches through the back loop. Now, you can do all the knitting that you want through the back loop, but for the most part, people don't. For the most part, we knit through the front loop. Is it wrong if you knit through the back loop? No, not necessarily. There are people who do it on the internet. They got YouTube channels, and they do knit through the back loop, and that's, you know what, you do what you learn, you do what you know. I use the back loop for some things, but for the most part I don't. It does have its purpose. It'll twist the stitch differently, tighten it up. But for the purposes of this, what we're doing here, knitting off of the crochet hook, we do want to do the whole first round through the back loop. Oops. I'm going to try to see if I can do better. This can be really tricky to get started. It can be tight. It can be tricky. I'm just going to be honest with you about that. Okay, there's our first stitch. And now we want to push that off of the knitting needle. And we don't want to, I don't think I tied that off yet. So I think I want to do that, or at least pull that tight, so that it doesn't come loose on the end of the tail. Let's see if I can figure this out. I'm just going to tie the end off here so that I don't accidentally pull it loose. I don't think that I will, but we don't want to do that. We want to keep that stitch nice and tight. So, okay. And now once again, we want to go into the next stitch through the back loop. We want to try not to split the stitch if possible, keeping that nice and tight. Wrap the yarn just like we would normally. Oops, I missed it. This can be really tricky, and this is a really bad angle. Okay. Grab the stitch, get it onto the other knitting needle, push it off of the first needle. And we are going to do this process through the whole 60 stitches on each side. Now, I'm not going to show you all 60 stitches, but once again, I'll do it a few more times. We want to go into the back loop, wrap the yarn, pull it through so it's onto the right hand needle, push it off the left hand needle. Right tip goes into the stitch through the back loop, wrap the yarn onto the right needle, and
Washington
push
gun
it
law. The state doubling down on firearm bans.
on the left. Right tip of the needle into the stitch from the back loop, knit, and off the needle. Right tip into the stitch from the back loop. Oops, I missed that one. Into the back loop, knit it, and take it off. This is a really loose stitch, and that can happen. You can get stitches that get on there really loosely, and they can be difficult to knit. That's just sometimes part of the process. So trying to pull those, there's a reason why we do it through the back loop, because you'll see it pulls it tighter. These first stitches for me are a little bit loose for sure. They're looser than I'd like, but with the style that I'm doing, it's going to be okay. It's kind of a loose net mesh style top, at least on the body piece of it, right? So that is going to be okay. But normally I might have tried to rethread these on here and see if I could pull them a little bit tighter depending on the project that I was working on. Normally when you knit a stitch, right, you go in from the left to the right and the front loop, but because these stitches are loose, because they are worked off of crochet, because they are rather loose, we want to go ahead and work them through the back loop to try to tighten them up just a little bit. Alrighty, well, I am So these look a little bit better, a little bit neater, a little bit tighter of what we're looking for. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and work this round and then I will get back with you.
Pause.
Okay, well, I did crochet this on a 4.25 hook and then went down to a 3.25 knitting needle. I probably, like some of these stitches are a little bit looser than I'd like, so I probably could have gone up a knitting needle size to a 4mm or a 3.75. That might have been the smarter thing to do. And I can always rip this out and redo it in a 4mm if I want to make this tighter. And I might do that, but I am going to go ahead and work it and see how I like it, see how loose those stitches end up looking. I think because of the style of this particular top, because it's kind of mesh and loose on the bottom, I think I will leave it, but we'll see. If I'm not happy with it, I can always yank the knitting needles and go up to a 4mm. And of course, this is the one time when I chose to use fixed needle tips, right? I mean, yeah, I could have used some interchangeables and then it would have been easier to swap out the tips and then maybe try from there. But we'll see what happens with it. It's just, you know, we're just creating, we're just working as we go. I've never worked this piece before. So, oops, sorry about that. So, yeah, you're just watching me in my creative process. I really don't even know what I'm doing with this top. I started looking at another crochet pattern. It's actually called the Avignon tee. And it was supposed to be like my first crochet wearable. And I've really only done like hats and scarves in crochet, and then of course I have my skirts that I do. So I have made crochet wearables, but I thought this would be a good first piece for me to do. And it's basically 4 rectangles, but this would go all the way up to the top for the front. There'd be one for the back and then the sleeves. But of course, you know me, I don't tend to work patterns as they're written. I tend to get too creative. I tend to do my own thing. So of course I wanted to knit the top half of this, and then I'll probably go back and crochet the sleeves, because you know what, this is most definitely a work in progress. It's a creation in progress. I have no idea how it's going to turn out. I have no idea if it's going to turn out. It might not. We might frog the whole project and scrap it, but that's part of designing. That's part of learning. That's part of the creative process. So here we are on the second half, and we are just going to do the very same thing. We're on the second half, we're going to stick our knitting needle into the back loop. We're going to wrap the stitch. We're going to pull it back out of the knitting needle. The stitch is now on the right hand needle. We're going to push it off the left hand needle. So we are working right tip needle into the back loop. We're going to knit the stitch just like normal, push it off the needle. Okay, so we are intentionally working these crochet back loops intentionally through the back loop just to tighten them up. Otherwise, they would be very loose. So that's what we're doing here. And I may not knit like you, and that's okay because I knit by feel, okay? So if you're watching this and you're like, I don't know, I've never really seen anybody knit like you before. Well, maybe you've never seen a visually impaired person knit by feel before, and that's okay. But just know that we're out here, okay? We might do things differently than you, but we're just doing it, all right? So again, we are going to stick our right needle tip into the stitch through the back loop as I showed you. Normally you'd go in to the front of the stitch and you would knit it, but because these are crochet loops, they are loose on here. They're kind of at an angle, and we want to go ahead and twist those stitches and tighten them up. So they're definitely looking a little tighter, a little bit better on this side, at least a little bit more uniform, right? Some of my other ones on the first needle were a little bit off. Some were tighter, some were looser. So anyway, we're just going to play with this. We're just creating. We're in the middle of our creative process. Like I said, I probably should have gone up a knitting needle size, but oh well. This is what I do. This is how I spend my days. This is how I come up with my designs. I just start, touching yarn, playing with yarn, picturing things in my head and then get out needles and hook and start playing. So that's what we're doing for today. Alrighty, well, I'm going to pause the camera again and I'm going to finish doing this because this is another 60 stitches, and I just know that you don't want to watch me knit 60 stitches through the back loop. All right, be back in a second.
Pause.
Okay, so this is what our second half looks like. I did do a much better job of pulling these stitches nice and tight, a little more uniform, a little more even. So we'll see what it looks like. I'm just going to go ahead and start knitting for a few rounds and see if I like the look of this, see if I do need to go ahead and rip out and try to redo it with a bigger needle on the front half. I don't know yet. I don't know. That's just how it works when you create and you make your own projects and your own designs. So I'm sure you hear me talk about that a lot. I just kind of, hook and needle size to me, they're just, they are just, sort of suggestions, but I do play around with hook and needle size a lot on my channel. I think it's fun to see what different yarns and different styles look like with different hook and needle sizes, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, right? This is a sport. This is what happens when I try to knit under a camera that has a very small space to work under. So I'm just going to go ahead and knit this for a little bit and see if I'm happy with the look or not. This is a sport weight yarn. It's a thicker, in my opinion, this is a thicker sport weight yarn. It's close to a DK. I don't know that I'd call it a DK, but it is close to a DK. And I do believe that the recommended needle is 3 to 5 would be my guess. So I did choose the smaller end of the needle range for this yarn. I probably could have gone all the way up to a 5 and still, right, that would have been a 3.75 knitting needle, and that probably would have been fine, and that might have made these stitches come out just a little bit tighter. But I'm going to go ahead and work it for a round or two and see what I think about it, see how it looks, and then I will make my decision. And that's part of the that's just part of the design process for me. That's part of the creativity process for me, as I have it sort of pictured, in one way in my head, and then sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So I will be back with you in a bit and we will take a look at this one more time. Alrighty.
Pause.
Okay, well, I have knit 2 rows. I did the first round of the knit through the back loop, and then I've done 2 rounds of just plain knitting. So overall, I think it looks good. I think it looks fine. I'm just going to go ahead and keep knitting. I will say that my first few stitches are way looser than I wanted right here. And that could be a number of factors. I could rip this out and start it over again and try to tighten that up. I could. I don't think, given the nature of the top, that it is just kind of meshy and crochet, it's going to be a real big deal to have a few more little holes there. But I certainly could, and I think a couple issues, probably the needle size. I went down quite a bit on the needle size, so I could have tried to do it in a larger needle. Also, I think it's just the angle that I'm working at too, and the small space that I'm working at. But overall, for the most part, I think it looks fine. So I think I'm going to keep going with that. The other side definitely looks better. I don't have that issues quite as much with the big gappy loose stitches there. So this is kind of an example. This isn't the best example because I did jump the needle size down quite a bit of what you're going to get. Let me show you my other skirt where I did do this. If you're on my channel, you've probably seen the granny square skirt. I think it's made an appearance in at least 3 different videos. So these I started by making these crochet granny squares in the white hollyberry and ivy and the Knit Picks We Crochet comfy worsted. And then these I did the same method that I showed you. I picked them up through the back loop only. You can see that through the back loop only, and then knit those stitches through the back loop. And these you can tell are much tighter, and I think it's because I went with a needle size that was much closer in size. I think the hook size on these was 5.5 millimeter, and then I just went down to a 5 millimeter knitting needle, so only half a millimeter difference. So I think that's probably the main difference that I'm looking at and why these stitches, I remember they were pretty tight to work into, but I think that ends up getting me a much tighter look. So that's definitely something to consider if you want your crochet to knitting to have a much tighter join there. Then definitely match your crochet hook size and your knitting needle size a lot closer. If you're working on just, like a casual, loose kind of summery type garment like this top, I don't think it matters as much, and you can do what I did where you have a bigger difference in your hook and needle size. Alrighty, well, I think that is the end of this video. As always, thanks for listening, and until next time, happy stitching.